Good evening, and welcome to our latest installment of Real Talk San Mateo in 2022. I'm Officer Allison Gilmore, the Public Information Officer for the San Mateo Police Department. I'm also tonight's host and moderator. Thank you for joining us online. We are aware that a virtual meeting is less than ideal for an open forum. However, we are mindful of COVID and the start of the cold and flu season. We are hopeful that next time we can gather in person and be at the same place at the same time. If this is your first time joining us for Real Talk, we encourage you to look at our previous episodes on YouTube. We've covered various topics, discussed how different groups are affected by policing, and how policing can affect groups as a whole and individually. Real Talk San Mateo has been very successful, and the San Mateo Police Department has grown from these conversations. Thank you for engaging with us. We truly appreciate it. Today, we are discussing various types of theft: auto burglaries, catalytic converter theft, package theft, retail theft, theft prevention tips, and the various ways the San Mateo Police Department diligently and proactively combats theft in San Mateo. We picked this time of year for this discussion because the holiday season means trips to the mall, a steady stream of packages arriving at residences, less daylight, and an influx of people coming to San Mateo, which are all factors that can play a part in the many forms of theft. The format for tonight is a discussion with our esteemed panelists, followed by a Q&A session from our audience. We prepared some questions for our panelists. If you would like to submit one, please do so using Zoom's Q&A option. Or if you're watching this live on our Facebook, please write an email to pdpio@cityofsanmateo.org. Or if you have other topics of interest or things you would like to learn about, please reach out to us, as much of our content comes from you. Closed captioning will be provided on YouTube after the video is uploaded. For anyone who's watching this video in the future, please feel free to send us an email with your questions. Remember that we're always a phone call, email, or Zoom meeting away. We truly love our community, and we welcome all opportunities for engagement. Let's continue to have these important conversations. We'll begin with Chief Barberini to kick off tonight's discussion. Chief has over 25 years of law enforcement experience and nearly a decade as a chief. After spending 2 years as the Chief of Police in Millbrae, 5 years as the Chief of Police in San Bruno, and the last 2.5 years as the Chief of Police for San Mateo. Now I'll toss over the mic to Chief Barberini for some opening remarks.
Thank you, Allison, and welcome to Real Talk San Mateo. Whether you're joining us live or watching a recorded version of this episode, we thank you for tuning in and appreciate your engagement and interest in what we have to talk about. Real Talk San Mateo has been a very successful venture for us and a nice avenue for us to communicate well with those that work and live and visit our city. And it's done a lot to make us better and enhance our ability to reach out and really engage with the community that we're tasked with serving. As Allison mentioned, we are eagerly looking forward to do this in person, and we can't wait to actually to sit down with residents, and we're hoping early next year that will happen. These episodes are basically a result of what we are observing within the community and the feedback that we receive from our residents. This Real Talk series is based on conversation. It's based on interaction, and we really rely on all of you who tune in. And we want to make sure that the subject matter that we discuss and we present is a relevant one and is applicable to what's happening in our city. The only way for us to be able to do that is to hear from you. So we're looking forward to hearing more ideas from those who tune into Real Talk and spread the word about what they'd like to all of you, and what do you want to hear from the police department, whether it's the manner in which we police or some crime trends or some certain issues that are facing our neighborhoods, maybe something having to do with the quality of life within a certain part of the city or the whole city. We're not afraid to have the difficult conversations, and we look forward to continuing this series in an effort to continue that level of engagement and conversation in enhancing our level of service. Our ultimate goal here is to be better, and you, frankly, you make us better. So we really rely on you, our residents, the people who make up this city and make this city move forward. We rely on you to let us know what is important. We can look at statistics, we can look at the types of calls we're going to, we can read the newspaper. All of that's very, very helpful. But unless we hear from you what the real concerns are in your particular neighborhood, it would be presumptuous of us to simply just think that we know those things. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us and give us ideas. You are our content creators. Tonight, we're going to talk about something that's very relevant, I think, as we approach the holiday season. There are some pretty specific challenges and difficult situations that we deal with every holiday season. Safety is always our first priority, and the holiday season presents some very unique challenges when it comes to safety, especially as it applies to theft and property crimes. So tonight we have a very, I think, knowledgeable panel. I think some folks that you'll enjoy listening to. I'd like to thank our staff for staying out late with us tonight. And after a long day and being here, we appreciate your commitment and dedication to what you do. And we'd also like to thank our community partners that have also agreed to join us and provide their insights and how we can work together to help keep San Mateo safe. So I look forward to listening like all of you. I'm going to jump off and sit back and learn and listen to the experts on this call. And I will be back a little bit later to talk to you about some other things. So thank you again for joining. And we hope you get a lot out of tonight. Thanks.
Robert Anderson.
All right, can you hear me now? Great. Well, thank you for having me. I have been a fan of the Real Talk programs, being a longtime San Mateo resident, and I find them very informative. My name is Robert Anderson, and I am with the Downtown San Mateo Association, which is a business merchant association for downtown San Mateo that goes from El Camino to Delaware and from 9th Avenue all the way down to Tilton. All the businesses are part of the Downtown San Mateo Association. And we represent all the businesses, quite a few hundred. So before I've been on with the DSMA now for about 9 years. I was president of it for 3 years. But before I came on the DSMA, I actually was a police officer with the San Mateo Police Department, where I was a police officer there for 32 years. And great department, great people, great career. And the last 5 years I was with the police department, I was assigned to downtown San Mateo as one of the downtown officers. I got to know all the businesses in downtown, walking around and handling various situations. And so after I retired, the board, the DSMA, reached out to me and asked me if I'd be willing to come on the board, even though I wasn't a business owner. And since I live close to downtown, I said, sure. So I'm really proud of our downtown, and we have a lot of good things going on in downtown, which we can talk about later, and things to be concerned about that I'm sure we'll address. So thank you, and I'll turn it back to you, Allison.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. And thank you for your service. Really appreciated. 32 years is a very long career. Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Peter Lee.
Thank you, Allison, and thank you, Real Talk San Mateo, for inviting me to be on the panel tonight. I work as the security director for the Hillsdale Shopping Center. I've been with the center since 2011. Started off as a security officer and made my way through the ranks, and now I'm the director of security here at the mall. Very grateful for the association and the interaction we have with the police department. And as a background, I'm originally from Fiji. I migrated here in 2010. So I've just been here over the past 10 years, and most of that time I've worked here at the mall. So I've seen things that happen in the mall as it progressed to where it is today. And I hope that as we get into this discussion, I'll be able to share some of my experiences from what happens in the mall and some of the safety tips that we might be able to offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Next up, we have San Mateo Police Department Officer Michael Wynn.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Wynn. I work as a downtown officer, one of 4. Currently, right now, I'm at the downtown substation, which is located at the Main Street parking garage right across from the train station. So you may hear train noises every once in a while, so I apologize for that. Basically, I've been an officer for 16 years. I was a lateral from Oakland Police Department, came here about 12 years ago. I've been here since. Some past assignments I've had is school resource officer, working at San Mateo High School and Bayside Middle School. Currently, right now in the downtown unit, we help with quality of life and community outreach in the area. We work with the merchants, the businesses, and with our homeless community doing outreach. So we work hand in hand with our homeless outreach group, which consists of 2 civilians, basically kind of helping them get resources that they need to improve their lives and get shelter or housing if possible. So if you're ever downtown, you'll see us riding bikes or walking around. So don't be afraid to say hi.
Thank you, Officer Wynn. Next up, we have San Mateo Police Department Officer Carmen Chase.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Carmen Chase. I am a police officer with San Mateo PD. I've worked here for just under a year, but I've been an officer for almost 18 years now. I'm currently assigned to patrol. I work Charlie Beat, which contains the Hillsdale Mall. And over the last 18 years, I've investigated probably thousands of cases of thefts, both investigations and arrests and, on-view scenarios. So.
Thank you, Officer Chase. Last but not least, we have San Mateo Police Department Community Relations Officer Janine Luna.
Thanks, Allison. As Allison mentioned, I am Janine Luna. I'm the Community Relations Officer for SMPD. I currently handle community engagement for the PD, but I'm also the Neighborhood Watch Program Coordinator. I am a San Mateo resident as well, and I've been in law enforcement for just about 24 years. I've had 21 years with San Mateo PD. So in the 21 years here, I've also served as a community service officer, and I've handled or taken, I should say, hundreds of theft reports to include both auto burglaries, residential burglaries, and additional thefts, as well as processing hundreds of scenes for evidence. So I can kind of speak towards both the actual reporting side of things as well as the crime scene part of it as well. I also make myself available to any of you business owners or residents who would be interested in either a business or house security survey. You can call us up. We can come out and kind of take a look at your area, see where you can improve your security or enhance your security or do things around your home to better harden your target, as we say. So I invite you to reach out to me and email me if you're interested in any of that. And then I would also encourage you guys to sign up for Neighborhood Watch if you're not already a part of that program. It's a really large program here in San Mateo. We have about 254 block captains in the city, and it's one of the stronger programs in the county. So I invite you to reach out to us as well regarding that. Thank you, Allison. And also, I'm going to apologize ahead of time. I'm just recovering from an illness, so I might need to cough or clear my voice, and I sound a little nasally, so I apologize.
Thank you, Janine. And thank you to the rest of our panelists for graciously joining us. And thank you to our community members for showing up to be a part of this discussion. Now that we've had a chance to meet our panelists, let's get a chance to meet our participants that are joining us for this. Let's launch our first poll. Our first poll contains 2 questions. The first is, how are you connected to San Mateo? First option is, I live in San Mateo, followed by I work in San Mateo. I live and work in San Mateo. I attend school in San Mateo, and lastly, none of the above. Our second question is how long have you been connected to San Mateo? 1 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, 10 to 15 years, or more than 15 years. We're going to give our audience a few moments to answer these questions and see what we end up learning about our audience. All right, and we have the results of our poll. So with 67% of our audience indicating that they live in San Mateo and 33% indicating that they live and work in San Mateo. For our second question, which referenced affiliation to and connection to San Mateo, we had 33% of our audience saying 5 to 10 years, while 67% of our audience said more than 15 years they've been connected to San Mateo. So we've got a well-seasoned and well-versed audience today. Thank you so much for that. That being said, we are going to move on. 3 questions. And for those questions, we'll start off with the first question being, are you or anyone in your household planning to visit downtown San Mateo, Hillsdale Shopping Center, or Bridgepoint Shopping Center during the holiday season? The second question is, have you or anyone in your household ever been a victim of an auto burglary, a package theft, or catalytic converter theft? Yes or no? And finally, the last question, what has been your personal experience with the San Mateo Police Department? A, positive experiences with SMPD, B, negative experiences with SMPD, or C, no experiences with SMPD. Give you a little bit more time to answer those questions. The answers are filtering in. All right. Okay. With our audience, almost all of our audience has answered the question. We're going to wait a little bit and make sure. Okay, at this point, we'll answer and let everyone know. For the first question, are you or anyone in your household planning to visit downtown San Mateo, Hillsdale Shopping Center, or Bridgepoint Shopping Center during the holiday season? We have 100% of our audience saying yes. For our second question, have you or anyone in your household ever been the victim of an auto burglary, a package theft, or catalytic converter theft? We have 40% of our audience saying yes, while 60% of our audience is saying no. And lastly, and this answer obviously makes me very happy, 100% of our audience said that they have had positive experiences with SMPD. So that's great. We're happy about that and happy to hear that. Thank you so much for those answers. Thank you. Thanks to our audience for participating in that part. We really appreciate it. And now that we've learned some background information on our panelists and some background information on our audience, let's move on to questions for our panelists. And we are going to start with Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson, can you tell us about your work with Downtown San Mateo Association?
Yes. As I said, I've been on the board and also president of the organization for several years. And the Downtown San Mateo Association wears many hats. We put on all type of events downtown, including the wine walk and street festivals, especially before the pandemic happened. That kind of put the kibosh on it. But we also oversee the marketing of downtown San Mateo. During the pandemic, we put out advertisements in the local papers, reminding people of all the restaurants downtown. We also deal with a lot of the issues in downtown San Mateo. Cleanliness is a big deal, and trying to keep it downtown, which is big as San Mateo, clean. We hire porters and that every day are cleaning, just like the Hillsdale Mall does and others. And parking is another big issue. We have 3,000 parking spaces in downtown San Mateo, but a lot of people coming downtown didn't know where to park because they driving a car and where's the parking garages. So we worked with Public Works and came up with parking signs, and you've probably seen in downtown San Mateo, the parking garages now, there's a digital readout sign saying how many available parking spaces are in each public parking garage in downtown. We had a lot of complaints about the meters and the pay stations, and we worked with the city of San Mateo and just replaced them all earlier this year. So we really try to market and promote downtown, but also deal with issues that pop up and try to put out little fires here and there that with the partnership with not only the police department, with Public Works and the city organization as a whole. I think you're on mute.
How does the holiday season affect the businesses in the association?
Well, the businesses during the holiday season, we get a lot more foot traffic. We get a lot more cars coming downtown San Mateo. Downtown San Mateo is not the big retail hub like it once was. A lot of retail businesses retail is a very difficult business right now. So what we have in downtown right now, a lot of those vacant storefronts have been taken over by restaurants, service type businesses like hair salons, nail salons, yoga studios. And we also have a movie theater. So what we see during the holiday season is a lot of people coming downtown San Mateo. It's a festive time to have dinner. We have the movie theaters, 12 theaters in downtown. And as you probably know, the big movie releases are in the summer or it is during the holiday season. So when the big movie releases happen in downtown San Mateo, our Century 12 Theater gets anywhere from 10 to 12,000 people per week coming to see movies. And so that is, the parking garage fills up and the restaurants fills up. So we definitely have a lot more people, customers, cars coming to downtown, which is a good thing.
Absolutely. That sounds encouraging. Can you tell us about any crime prevention measures you have or encouraging downtown businesses to take during the holiday season, especially given your past experience as a police officer?
Well, it's pretty much just not for the holiday seasons, it's year round. Unlike Union Square in San Francisco or even the Hillsdale Mall that have some high-end luxury retail stores and clothing stores, downtown San Mateo doesn't necessarily have that. So we might be on a different plateau there, but nonetheless, we do have problems, not problems, but challenges for some retail establishments. And I'll give you an example. Jewelry, we have quite a few jewelry stores and eyeglass frame stores in downtown San Mateo. And in the past, we've actually had thefts from eyeglass frame stores a lot, where just about everyone was getting hit by thieves coming in, and one thief distracts the person who owns the store while the other thief takes eyeglass frames off and puts it in a bag. Or in jewelry stores, sometimes that's another, jewel thieves tend to go in to distract the proprietor while another thief steals. And we've seen both of that in downtown, not on a regular basis, but nonetheless to let the business owners know that this is happening. So what we say is it's good when a customer walks in is to greet them and be friendly. And that's kind of, and just keep an eye on the store. So if you are talking to a customer, just don't get tunnel vision. Look around the store, who's coming in and who's coming out. We also, in this holiday season, a lot of our downtown businesses put a lot of decorative displays up, which is great. However, we also recommend don't overload your storefront window with a lot of decorative displays that can block the vision from anyone walking outside. And it's important to have a good, I think most businesses in downtown have some type of video camera inside, which is great. We had one of our jewelry stores in downtown San Mateo person came in, asked to see a $100,000 ring, put it on, and as soon as he put it on, he ran out the door. And it was a $100,000 ring. Well, he had a good video footage of the person, and through our investigations unit of the San Mateo Police Department, they were able to identify the person as a jewel thief out of Oregon. So if it wasn't for that good video camera, it would have been very difficult to apprehend him. And there's some high-end eyeglass store frames in downtown San Mateo right now, and they have, during the holiday season, they have elected to have by appointment only. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. And the only other thing I'll add, I know this will be covered earlier and later, is if you're going to become a victim of anywhere of a crime in San Mateo or downtown, probably the biggest thing would be a theft from a vehicle. Downtown San Mateo, and I'm sure Mike can vouch for it, is a safe place to do business and a safe place to come and shop and go out to dinner. However, that is a big thing, is car break-ins, especially during the holiday season. I say that all the time. I know one person, businessman in downtown, I had the same conversation with. He parked at 3rd and B Street for about 10 minutes, went inside the store. He left his briefcase on the front passenger seat. And he came out and found his windows smashed out and his briefcase missing. So it's always good to practice of leaving your car clear of any merchandise or anything. So those are the type of things that we try to encourage both customers and business owners.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Thank you for answering those questions and your thoughtful answers. Next up, we're going to go to Officer Nguyen. Officer Nguyen, you spend approximately 40 hours a week patrolling, walking, and biking in downtown San Mateo as one of the officers assigned to San Mateo's downtown unit. From your perspective, what can patrons and shoppers do to remain safe while downtown?
I think it's kind of a lot of it got covered by Robert, but basically being observant of your surroundings, especially in the downtown. This is the season where a lot of people are doing shopping, having fun and exploring the downtown area. But oftentimes we forget and we leave a lot of our belongings in the car, whether for convenience and it's kind of visible out there. That is kind of like a sign for groups or even individuals who are looking to commit thefts or steal from vehicles to kind of target. So it's almost like a crime opportunity if it's easy for them to get into vehicles, if it's unlocked, or if they see something readily available where they could just smash a window and grab it quickly. Those are going to be the ones that they target. So for a while in the past, not so much recently, some of the kind of crime trends during this time was like the parking garages. A lot of groups would go around, drive through the parking garages because they know people are shopping or going to retail, and basically looking for vehicles that they saw loaded with shopping material or even laptops and things like that, and kind of targeting those vehicles. Stand by real quick. A train is going by, so I'm going to mute. But basically, those are the types of things to look out for. A lot of it too is our public is really good at seeing something, saying something with it, or see something, say something, which is the motto that we kind of go by in terms of reporting crime. So we do get calls from the public kind of addressing those issues. If you see something strange or you see someone chasing a vehicle, it's always good to just call it in and report it, let it be investigated. If it's nothing, then that could be a friendly contact and just a talk. But if it is groups looking out there to try to commit thefts or whatnot, then we can kind of respond quickly and kind of engage them, and then see if they are out there trying to commit crimes. So some of those things, the observations, definitely we have surveillance cameras all through downtown. So for businesses, a lot of businesses are starting to get alarm systems and starting to get camera surveillance to kind of help identify subjects. A lot of it is it's not worth the engagement with the subject itself. It's better just to give us a call, have us respond, but kind of have these surveillance equipment be a handy tool to kind of get pertinent information like descriptions of the subject, license plates if handy, those things are things that we can follow up on and kind of see what the suspects or culprits are and kind of get them identified, so that way we can prosecute if it goes to court.
If I could also add on to that really quick, just to touch on both what Robert and Mike spoke about too. Our downtown is bustling and there's a lot of food places. So we also need to be aware of our own personal safety and having property stolen from our person. You know, if you're bumped into, you should do a quick once over, make sure, do I have my wallet still? Is my watch still attached to me? Things like that, you know, to make sure that you're okay. If you're out to dinner, don't leave your purse hanging in the back of your chair where you can't see it. You know, be cognizant of where your property is and make sure your purses and wallets are zipped and that they're in your periphery and you can see where your property is. If you've sat down to have lunch and you have shopping bags, make sure, you know, they're in front of you, maybe down by your legs and not behind you. So just be very cognizant of your property and of your own you know, your own person, and protect yourself.
Thank you for that, Janine. I did want to get back to an earlier point that both Robert Anderson and Officer Nguyen spoke of, which was parking lot security specifically. So now would be a great time for Officer Nguyen to discuss last Saturday's efforts by our department. Officer Nguyen supervised a group of SMPD explorers who conducted courtesy vehicle checks at various parking lots in San Mateo. Please tell our audience what a courtesy vehicle check entails and what the results were of those.
About for the event. Basically, we were going in not only in the downtown area, but in San Mateo as a whole, at the retail shopping areas like Hillsdale Mall, Bridgepoint, basically to focus on looking at vehicles, seeing if anything is left out, and then kind of giving them a report back so that they're aware of the objects that they're leaving out and that they could be a potential victim of crime. So it was looking for both cars that did pass and cars that didn't pass. So it wasn't focused on just cars that had things available. So it was more sporadic checking, but it was a good chance for the explorers to get out there to kind of do education with the community, especially around this time, to kind of point out things that they observe. And for our kids doing the Explorer program is a good opportunity to remind themselves as well, like, hey, these are things that I could have possibly done with my own vehicle and left out. So some of the things that we found were in some parking garages, cars were left unlocked. Some people had jewelry in cars. We found cars that had laptop equipment or digital equipment out in their back seats or in their trunk area. And a lot of our trunks now are kind of tinted, but that doesn't prevent someone to kind of peer in real quick and see, especially if it's uncovered, that there's objects back there. So kind of in the shopping times, a lot of times we think that we can put things in the trunks and sometimes people won't notice it. But remember, these groups are out here, they're hitting specific areas like the mall or like downtown itself. And a lot of it is just observation. They're watching people doing their shopping and they're seeing where they're going back to. So if they see you loading your car with a lot of shopping bags or materials, then those are kind of the cars that they're going to go up and kind of check briefly just to see if there's anything worth stealing. So it was a good time out there. A lot of people thought we were ticketing their vehicles, but that wasn't the case. So it was nice for them to let the community know we were just there for education, but it was a good interaction both ways. And I think the public really enjoyed the interaction and kind of like the knowledge going forward.
Thank you for that, Mike. If I do recall, I believe the explorers got out to about 195 vehicles. So seemingly a large sample size, and they saw keys and laptops and all kinds of things that people were leaving out. So it was a good proactive effort on their part. But once again, thank you, Mr. Anderson, and thank you, Officer Nguyen, for answering those questions. Greatly appreciate your insights and experience as it relates to downtown San Mateo. We're going to shift gears a little bit and discuss a popular destination for our community and our visitors alike during the holiday season, and that's the Hillsdale Shopping Center. We're going to start off with Mr. Peter Lee answering a few questions for us. Mr. Lee, what steps does Hillsdale Shopping Center take during the holiday season to help thwart criminals?
Thank you, Allison. Hillsdale Shopping Center, we have programs that we have during the holiday season, and a lot of preparation is done, especially with events that are held by our marketing team during the Christmas season. And it starts very early. In actual fact, next Friday, the 18th, we have in the Christmas tree lighting and the arrival of Santa, which is an annual program. But over the years, this is my own personal observation. Initially, in the early, maybe 2013, 2012, it was very different compared to what we have now. In those years, there were a lot of little thefts that would take place. But now we don't see too much of the individual thefts. It's more like the retail crime, gangs. And when they get into one of the stores, it's really a grab and run with a huge quantity of merchandise. And we know that, as well as you know, that retail crime in our area is really a problem that we're all facing. Having said that, there's certain stores here that are targets. They will target certain stores, not all the stores. Fortunately, some of the stores have their own loss prevention or asset protection people, like Macy's and Nordstrom, even some of the little stores. But having said that, we still have those problems. So for us, from a security point of view, we also have a program. We do have what we call the employee parking program, and we let all the stores know, and most of them that are here in the mall, they know that every year we do this. We have special areas of the parking lot where only employees park, keeping the prime spots for our patrons. And that's a program that we feel is good because we actually contract California Parking to look after the employee parking program. They man it, they have their people watch over that area of the parking lot. And then the rest of the parking lot is manned by a security. Definitely, there's a huge presence of security at that time of the year. And the way we do that is that at the beginning of November, the middle of November, we try to have seasonal workers that will just work the holiday season. We get them in November, and then they work till the end of December. So by getting those seasonal workers, we increase our workforce so that we'll have more coverage. There's one thing about parking lots. We do have a patrol vehicle. During the normal hours or this time of the year, that vehicle is good. It can cover a lot of distance. But during the holiday season with a busy parking lot, it's almost impossible to have the vehicle do the cover. And so we have a lot of man hours in patrolling just the parking lots. So when we have those extra bodies, we always assign a lot of security officers in the parking lot. Having said that, do we stop all the thefts that go on? Not really. But one thing is for sure, it's a deterrent. When you have people and ears and eyes out there in the parking lot, you are deterring. We still have thefts, and what's been mentioned by Robert and Michael about people having valuables, not valuables, any bag exposed is always a reason for someone who wants to break into a vehicle, be tempted to do so. And also, there's something that we try to encourage our stores. When they have shoppers and they have a lot of packages, especially with females, what I'm trying to ask the community is ask for assistance if you have packages to take to the car. Because sometimes when you're overloaded with things that you carry, you're just a target for someone that will come and grab, because you cannot do much with hands full of items. So most of the stores, if you buy from them and you ask for some kind of help in assisting you to your car, I'm pretty sure they will do that. Even for us in security, if someone needed an escort at night, we will offer the escort to get them to the parking lot when it's late at night. So having said that, I know it's after the pandemic, things also change. The online buying has helped in the sense that I don't think we have the number of people that we used to have in the past. It shows in the during Thanksgiving when you have Black Friday. No more lines and no more of the midnight stores opening, because everything's online. And even now, as soon as you begin November, people are already going online and they're claiming we have Black Friday specials. And so basically, the number of people coming to the mall, as I see that, is decreasing with a lot less retail shopping, more online buying. And I think for them, it's safer when they do that. A lot of stores like Nordstrom and Macy's, they have online buying with pickups. They just have pickup spots assigned, and then customers would come and pick up whatever they buy, and doesn't even have to make them leave their cars to go into the stores. So that part of it is changing. But as security, our job is to observe and report, and we are fortunate that SMPD is only a few minutes away from us. And if there are instances when we call, we've been very happy with the response we get from the police. They always here in a hurry whenever we call, and so we work well with the police, and we're happy that they can assist us when we do call them for assistance.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Thank you for your insight on that. I had a couple more questions prepared for you, but you actually answered them all in your answer, so thank you for that. I'm going to go next to Officer Chase. Officer Chase, you are one of the officers who's assigned to the beat where Hillsdale Shopping Center is located, as you referenced earlier. But with a specific idea in mind, I'm going to talk about Victoria's Secret. Okay. Since July, one of the stores at Hillsdale, Victoria's Secret, has been victimized approximately 20 times and lost close to $163,000 in merchandise. Please tell us about the coordinated efforts SMPD took to combat these thefts.
So just a little bit of information so people understand how they lost the $150,000 worth of merchandise. As somebody referenced earlier in this presentation, gangs have gotten into organized retail theft in the last couple of years. They will send in groups of sometimes 2 or 3 people into a store. They will usually bring in bags with them, although sometimes they will also use bags that are provided by the store for assisted shopping. They'll go around the store and kind of see who's working, whether or not they have loss prevention in the store. And periodically, one of the people that comes in will distract an employee, and sometimes they don't. With Victoria's Secret keeps a lot of their merchandise in drawers or on shelves where the merchandise is closely stacked together. So they'll just walk into the store and go to the area where they want to take stuff, and they'll open the bags and load an entire drawer or 2 or 3 into a bag. These criminals know that Victoria's Secret has a policy of non-touching and non-apprehension. So the risk is relatively low to them, and they figure they can get a large amount of merchandise packed into a bag and leave the store before somebody can get there to try to stop them from leaving the store. I think our largest single hit from Victoria's Secret was just under $22,000 in one hit, but we did have a Friday when they were hit 3 times. I think for just under $30,000 that particular day between the 3 thefts. So based on this and the fact that my partners and I are trying to identify and catch these criminals, we've reached out to the Hillsdale Mall, we've reached out to Victoria's Secret's loss prevention, and we also reached out to a task force that CHP put together that is focused on retail theft. We have been coordinating our efforts between patrol teams on both sides of the week, mall security, CHP, and Victoria's Secret loss prevention. And we've been gathering data on times of the times and dates when thefts most often occur. We've been gathering surveillance photos and videos of the people involved, and we've been sharing this information through a very large network of officers and loss prevention officers in attempts to identify the people that are involved in these crimes. We've been really lucky in the last couple of weeks. We've identified several vehicles that were involved in these retail thefts, and we were able to catch the vehicles with people in them and to locate merchandise that was stolen from Victoria's Secret in the vehicles with our suspects. Using this information, we've been able to share the identities of suspects who were frequently wearing face masks at the time of their theft with other stores and other departments so that they can build cases against these suspects as well. Our intent in this is to try to get a conspiracy to commit burglary charge against the people that are involved in these thefts so that they can get a higher sentence when they get charged for the thefts. And with this, we've been able to identify suspects in mall thefts in between San Francisco and I think as far south as Gilroy at this point.
Thank you for cluing in our audience about all your efforts and all the efforts SMPD has been taking to work on these organized retail theft cases. It's very important, very timely, and very informative. Thank you, Officer Chice, for that. But could you also tell our audience with what tips you might have for people to stay safe and what they should do if they witness organized retail theft?
So in my experience with these crimes, a lot of times these are nonviolent crimes that the women or men are going into the store, loading up bags and leaving. However, that being said, I do not recommend that people approach them or try to stop them or apprehend them. We would ask that if you see a crime or you see something that looks suspicious, that you notify the police department and or mall security as soon as possible so that we can send people who are properly trained to stop people and get them into the area as quickly as possible. Photos and videos are extremely useful for us, and we have gathered a lot of that you can take a video without being obviously seen. If there's a way that you can take a photo of a car that you see them entering without being seen, that would be great. But we definitely ask that you do not try to stop or apprehend people in any way. Please contact mall security and the police department as soon as possible so that we can respond and take care of the problem.
Thank you, Officer Chice. Thank you for your insights. And thank you, Mr. Lee, as well for your insights as it relates to Hillsdale Shopping Center. We'll probably discuss more points on that a little bit later. But as we kind of transition, we've talked about auto burglaries, we've talked about organized retail theft, and we've spoken of crime prevention tips as it relates to those crimes. But now we're going to shift gears and go to package theft and the ways that people can take to avoid having their package taken by thieves. For that part of our discussion this evening, we're going to ask Community Relations Officer Luna for some insight. Officer Luna, over the last 8 years, the number of people who shop online has grown steadily. About 76% of Americans that are adults in the United States shop online. As the number of packages being delivered to homes has increased, so have the way thieves, aka porch pirates, steal packages from homes. Please tell our audience about some of the ways thieves take packages from residences.
Yeah, as Mr. Lee mentioned, he's seen the influx of online shopping has grown so much. Obviously, with all of us stuck at home for 2 years during COVID, that also increased heavily. We've gotten away from going to a store and buying things, whereas we can get it just as quickly by ordering through Amazon Prime, so we don't have to wait. So everything is so immediate, so quick, and we can get something in our hands just as quick as we can DoorDash a meal, So what ends up happening is a lot of it's opportunistic. We do have crews that will follow your FedEx truck or your UPS or Amazon delivery trucks and just kind of follow them and see where the packages are being delivered. But we also have people who ride skateboards through a neighborhood or, under the preface of taking their dog for a walk, will walk around a neighborhood and pick up packages. So the way they do it differs, but what can we do, as consumers and people who are purchasing online? We have to be very cognizant about, what we do and how we order. So I have a slide, if you don't mind me sharing it with you real quick, if you don't mind, just to help me get through my points. Package thefts, let's see here. if I can get this okay. When you are ordering online, actually, I don't think I can do it from here. I think maybe you have to do it, Allison, but I'll just speak from my, oh no, actually you can. Here we go. Sorry, it's hourglassing. Can you see that okay? Great. So when you're placing an order online, you want to make sure that if you're not going to be home when your package is delivered, make arrangements for it. There are many options out there. There are delivery locker locations. You know, I believe Whole Foods has an Amazon locker, or you can have things delivered to FedEx, and then you can go at your leisure and pick up these packages. If you know you're going to be away, stay on top of the delivery. There's a lot of alerts you guys can receive now when you place orders online, so that you're alerted when your package is delivered. And when you get that alert, you want to make sure that you're going and picking up your package pretty immediately. And if you can't, maybe you have a friend or a neighbor who's willing to do that for you. You know, you want to provide delivery instructions. If there's a specific location you want your package dropped, make sure that you put that in the notes. You know, sometimes kind of in the area I live, you know, we have a front door, but maybe our garage is on the back side, which is more street facing, you know, and sometimes you're looking for your package at your front door, but it's been delivered to your garage, which is behind your house. You know, so make sure that you're putting instructions specifically where to deliver these packages. And then obviously on anything that has a high dollar value, you want to make sure that you're requesting a signature. You know, some, you know, high-end luxury companies that you order from require signatures, which is great because that's how they're trying to protect your package. But on the flip side, you know, you might want to request signature upon delivery. If you're a high volume online purchaser, you know, hauls are your thing, and maybe you're on social media and you like to, you know, you're an influencer and you like to show off purchases and things like that, you might want to then think about investing in a lockbox. They have kind of boxes which are like mini mailboxes, secured little safes that you can put or mount to the front of your home or your porch or wherever you so choose, and then your packages can be delivered in there, and it's a little harder to get the package out. So that's something if your job involves a lot of deliveries. So there's a lot of different things you can do, but one of the things we would always say, especially if you're getting packages delivered regularly to your home, is invest in security cameras. You've heard everybody on this panel talk about the importance of having a security camera. They're helping us solve crime so much these days. You know, crimes are happening so quickly. It takes less than 30 seconds for me to go onto your porch and steal a package. It takes less than 30 seconds for me to shadow your car window and reach in and pull something out. It takes less than 30 seconds to saw off your catalytic converter from your car. You know, so we want to make sure in that 30 seconds, by the time you get on the phone to 911 and the police arriving, although we'll get there as quickly as we can, you know, these guys have already come and gone. So what type of evidence are they leaving behind? You know, are they leaving fingerprints or DNA? That's great if we can get that. But really what's most important to us is also, you know, video and footage of that. So make sure that if you don't already have a security system, ask for one for Christmas, since we're talking holiday shopping. You know, they're way more affordable these days, and you can get a lot of cameras for cheap, and they're higher quality than they used to be in the old days. And you can mount those, you know, at the front of your house, anywhere there's an entrance or exit point of your house. And then also we would add that, you know, you post a camera street facing so that we can see if there's a vehicle involved, their direction of travel. Those things definitely help us when the police are trying to follow up on a reported crime. And in regard to package thefts, we see a lot of it on nextdoor.com. Neighbors will talk about, oh, I had my package stolen. Hey, you know, my mailbox, I think my mail was stolen. Was your mail stolen? You know, stay on top of what you're expecting. And if anything out of the norm starts to happen, you know, these people on Nextdoor and your neighbors are inquiring about it, and that's great. But the other thing we're seeing is people will post video on there, and it's great because they're alerting their neighbors of what a potential suspect looks like, or, you know, when it happened, but they're not filing a police report online. And so the police aren't getting notified that this happened. So we're asking, you know, one, be a very good witness, take down descriptions, things like that, but also encourage each other to file police reports, because in order to better police, we need to know where crime is occurring. And so if you're not filing a police report, then we might not ever know that a crime occurred or that you were a victim of a package theft or an auto burglary, even if you think the value is insignificant or maybe it wasn't a really super expensive item, we still want to know that, because a crime is a crime is a crime. And we can better police by knowing that. And then also too, if you're going to file a claim with the company that sent you this item, they're generally going to request a police report number from you. And so you're helping yourself out by doing that as well. I think that's all I have right now on package theft. I'm sure people will have questions later that I can better ask, or if you have any follow-up questions for me.
I do have a follow-up question. A word that you used very often in your answer was neighbor and neighbors. Can you speak more to the importance of neighbors, and specifically with your role as the person who coordinates Neighborhood Watch at SMPD? Can you talk about that importance and how Neighborhood Watch can be helpful to deter theft and how it can be used?
Of course, you know, right now we're in a technological age where social media is basically our entertainment, and that's how we're communicating, and we're getting away from person-to-person contact. And because of that, you know, we stay very private. But there is something to be said about the nosy neighbor. You know, if you get out enough and you know your neighbors and you build rapport and you know who belongs in your neighborhood and what cars belong in your neighborhood, you know, you'll then know what's not normal for your neighborhood, or if a person seems out of place in your neighborhood. You know, we want to avoid stereotyping people, you know, and we don't want to classify anybody as suspicious. But there are certain things and behaviors that naturally will make the hairs on the back of our neck stand up, you know, and if you see that, you're going to pay attention a little bit more. And so by knowing the normal comings and goings of what's normal for your neighborhood and who belongs there, when something is out of place, you're going to know it. And when that happens, we ask that you pay attention a little bit more. You know, as far as Neighborhood Watch goes, we've got, I mentioned it when I did my introduction, we have a very strong program in this city. And we actually catch a lot of bad guys because a neighbor's camera captured the incident, or a neighbor got a license plate of a car fleeing an area, or, you know, at 2 and 3 in the morning when the saw is going off cutting that catalytic converter, a neighbor thought that was not normal and they peeked out the window and they saw it happening. So when we pay attention to what's going on with each other, we're more apt to be able to provide the police with clues and evidence that's going to help us catch the bad guy and hopefully get your property back. So, you know, participate in National Night Out at least once a year and get to know your neighbors. And I know we have a lot of renters and it's expensive to live here and we're all in our own life these days, but there is still something to be said about knowing your neighbors and paying attention and looking out for each other, because not only are you helping each other, you're helping us. You guys are an extension of our eyes and ears. We say that all the time, and it's kind of hokey and cheesy, but it's so true. There's only so many police officers working at one time, but there's 100,000 plus residents in the city, and you can all do your part to help us. So I just encourage you, you know, if you don't have an active Neighborhood Watch program on your block, talk to me. Let's start one. You know, the Department of Justice says Neighborhood Watch blocks are 84% safer than non-Neighborhood Watch blocks. And that's just because you guys are paying attention to what's going on and you know it's normal. So I recommend it. We have a great program here. We've got tons of crime prevention tips we can give you, and I'll end up posting some of these on Facebook at the end of this event. So make sure you take a look at our Facebook page for some tips on preventing all the theft that we're talking about tonight.
Thank you, Community Relations Officer Luna. Thank you for your answers. The last type of theft we're going to discuss this evening is catalytic converter theft. Catalytic converter theft has spiked across the country, and San Mateo has not been immune to the increase of catalytic converter thefts. At this time, I'd like to ask Chief Barberini to discuss San Mateo Police Department's newest program created to help deter catalytic converter theft.
Thanks, Allison. Yeah, catalytic converter thefts are obviously in the news. It's a big deal throughout the Bay Area. You know, and police, not just in San Mateo, but across the Bay Area, have been very effective in making arrests regarding catalytic converter thefts, believe it or not. However, it seems like every time we make those arrests, we're dealing with more and more folks who are interested in committing that crime. So we kind of, you know, we kind of got together and said, hey, how can we address this, or is there a creative way for us to approach this problem and in the way of prevention and in trying to prevent these crimes from happening in the first place? As cops, we like to investigate crimes. We like to do all that, detective type stuff, but we'd be much better off if we could prevent these crimes in the first place. There have been some other jurisdictions or other cities that have developed some programs that include etching serial numbers or some identifying marks on catalytic converters. And those are great. It's nice because we can track those. If it is stolen, it gives us somewhere to start. We can find out, which car that catalytic converter belonged to when it's recovered, and kind of help us put the pieces together when conducting an investigation. However, that's kind of a laborious and difficult process. It involves bringing your vehicle to some type of shop or some type of establishment where there's some power tools involved. There's climbing under a car and a lot of stuff that the average person just doesn't have the means to do that, and would have to go and figure out a way to get that done. Really good program, but kind of a real pain in the rear end, for lack of a better term, to really get done. So credit to Allison Gilmore, who's our MC tonight. This is kind of her idea. She did a lot of research, and we located a product that we're kind of excited about. It's called CatGuard, and CatGuard is an etching program that does provide an identifiable serial number on your catalytic converter. But the nice thing about this product is it doesn't require the tools and the etching equipment that you see in some other programs. This is simply placing a number on the car with it's kind of a sticker kind of etching material almost, and then there's some liquid that's covered over a cold catalytic converter. And when you turn on your car, your catalytic converter heats up. It warms the liquid and the etching substance, and it essentially accomplishes the same thing as getting underneath the car and physically trying to take a piece of machinery and etch that number into the car. This program we also provide. Well, I'll tell you how we're going to provide it too. But this program also includes a sticker to put somewhere on the windshield or somewhere obvious to let folks know that, hey, that you're participating in this program and that your catalytic converter has been identified, and we're going to have a lead at the very least if this catalytic converter goes missing. It's not a lot of work. It's not a hefty process. This is actually what the product looks like. I mean, it's very, very, this is the package that it comes in. Very, very simple to do. We've invested in 500 of these kits, which we are going to give away free of charge. We're going to start taking orders for these next week or the next week or so. There'll be more information coming out from our department regarding how to place an order for that. We want to see how it works with the first 500, and then look for options on how we can, if it's successful and it works out well, how we can fund that moving forward to reach a broader group of people. We're going to try to. It's basically going to be kind of first come, first serve, because we have a limited inventory, but we really want to take a look how this works out. This also coincides with some new law at the state level, which has made clearly defined or made it much more strict on who can actually sell or purchase a catalytic converter. The problem, or we as police officers, when we're out there at night on patrol, and typically these crimes happen at night with parked vehicles, we're pretty good at addressing the supply side. I mean, we do a pretty decent job of catching these folks. There's just a lot of them. It's the demand side that's the challenge. If there wasn't a demand for these catalytic converters, these crimes would not be happening. This is a for-profit enterprise. That's what it comes down to. So if we can address between tools like what we proposed with the new state law that provides strict restrictions on who can actually buy and sell these catalytic converters, we're hoping to put a pretty big dent into what we're seeing when it comes to these types of thefts. You can't simply just have a transaction at a body shop now for a catalytic converter, because the law has made that effective January 1. The law has made that much more clearly defined as far as who can actually buy and sell these. So we think all of these efforts together will hopefully have a significant impact. Please keep an eye out on our social media sites. And I think we're going to put out a press release as well to let folks know how they can contact us and hopefully be one of those first 500 folks to be able to identify and place these permanent markings on your catalytic converter, so folks know that you're working with the police department to identify this valuable piece of equipment off of your vehicle, and that we're not messing around, that we're gonna follow up and we're gonna find out. So it's a problem that we all face. We probably have been luckier than some cities as far as the frequency or the amount of catalytic converters, but maybe maybe we've had a bigger problem than others. So it's not that we're experiencing a greater amount or any lesser amount than anyone else. We just recognize that it's a regional problem and we're looking for a creative way to try to address it. So thanks for the opportunity, Allison, to do this. And while I still have the floor, I really want to thank Allison for I know we're not done yet, but in case I don't have another opportunity to do this, I want to thank Allison, Sergeant Michael Hopsch, Janine Luna, and all of our panel members for staying out tonight. And I know it's been a long day for everyone, but these type of, whether people are watching live or are going to watch a recording of this down the road at some point, I think it's very commendable, and I appreciate the time and effort you put into to our Real Talk series and the care that goes into it. So thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you for informing our audience about SMPD's Catalytic Converter Deterrence Program. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, panelists, for your candor and thoughtfulness. We're going to open for a Q&A from our audience. Please note that you can stay anonymous, and we encourage you to ask anything that you would like. So we're going to look and field some questions right now. The first question that we have that's come in is for Officer Luna. Do you have any personal safety tips as it relates to just personal safety, especially when it comes to women?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, stay aware of your surroundings. We're constantly walking around in our phones these days, or taking selfies. We got to put the phone down when we're out in public. Save the phone for when you're home. When you're out in public, especially if you're walking by yourself, be aware of your surroundings. Scan your surroundings. I personally, if I'm feeling hinked up in an area that I'm at, I'll walk with my car key between my fingers, just so it's a weapon if God forbid I need it, but pay attention. Don't walk with your AirPods or earbuds in your ear. You need to use all your senses, because those are really what you're going to trust in an incident. We talked about purses. If you're walking around, make sure your stuff's zipped up. A lot of us are using shoulder bags now. Lean it towards the front. I like to keep my hand, I'm sitting down so I can't really display it, but I like to kind of keep my hand resting on it so I know it's in front of me. If you put your purse in a shopping cart while you're out shopping, don't get distracted or turn away from it. When you go to reach for something on a shelf, you need to pay attention to your property. And when you go out, only go out with the stuff you need. Only take enough money that you're going to need. Only take the credit cards that you plan on using. Leave your social security card at home. There's no reason why you need to carry that in your wallet with you. So just think about all of these things. Sometimes less is more, for females, and I was guilty of it before. I would throw the kitchen sink in my purse and go out with it. Now I'm usually taking a debit card, my car keys, and my phone, and that's all I'm taking out with me. So I'm lessening, my vulnerability, I guess, and walk with purpose. Don't walk like a wallflower. When you're out, your job is your security. So walk like you own the streets. You don't have to be rude or anything, but walk with confidence and pay attention. And if somebody's checking you out or you feel hinked up by somebody, look at them. Look at them. Sometimes that's enough. A little RBF goes a long way sometimes.
Good call on the RBF. I think our audience needed to hear that one tonight.
I have it hard, so it works for me. I know.
Absolutely. I think Officer Chice and I both have it. Moving on, we have another question. This one might be for just our officers, but it relates to something the chief touched on earlier when it came to catalytic converter theft. The question involves, are there any tips you can offer to avoid having your catalytic converter stolen absent the cat guard device? Like any tips as it relates to parking or anything like that?
So there are several devices that you can get to put on your car that are kind of like a catalytic converter cage. I have seen people go out and purchase those. A mechanic can install them, and it makes it virtually impossible to cut off your catalytic converter. Also, park your car someplace that's near a camera. Park your car someplace that's well lit. If you have the option to park in a garage or behind a locked gate, those are also things that you can do to help. Obviously, we can't prevent all catalytic converter thefts, but if you park your car someplace that's well lit or secured behind either a door or a gate, that will usually slow people down or move them towards a target that's a little bit easier for them, because they're looking for the easy in and out and not the difficulty of having to get past the fence, past the door, or potentially being seen under a bright light. I would also recommend, if you park your cars in front of your house or in your driveway, motion sensor lighting to the front. So if they get spotlighted as soon as they walk up, a lot of times that'll spook people into going the other direction.
I would also add to that, know whether your vehicle is one of those ones that are the highly targeted vehicles. You know, if you own a Toyota Prius, you should know, or you should be concerned. So you can Google it and find out what the top 5, 10 vehicles are, but it's helpful to know that, first of all.
Yeah, just piggybacking on it. I know the area I live, that's kind of the concern too, is the catalytic converter thefts. So trying to park it behind something that's more secure. A lot of times we do the public parking because it's convenient. But a lot of times having it in a more secure area, especially a garage, is going to be helpful. I've seen catalytic converter thefts where it's even in the driveway, so that doesn't really prevent it. So having the lighting, things like that, other preventatives, a good old car alarm, all those things will kind of help with the situation, because you want something that will alert the public or alert yourselves when it is being tampered with, that you know that this is going on and that you could address it and call the police.
All right, thank you for those answers. One of the questions that we have from the audience is actually more like 4 or 5 questions in one. So it's gonna be to our officers to kind of go over this. What type of directive does the police department have when it comes to retail theft investigations? Is there a certain or particular dollar amount as it relates to the amount of product stolen that determines the investigation? Does the department do passing checks to prevent theft? What type of follow-up is done for quote unquote low-level retail theft? And if someone wants to know about follow-up, who should they call? Is no news bad? Is no news good news or bad news? And I'll start off with Officer Chase since you're unmiked.
So I'll try and tackle as many of those questions as possible. We don't have a bottom dollar amount for retail theft. Stores can call for any amount of theft. Some of our stores have called in for things as low as $5 or $10. We investigate everything that is a crime as much as we can, with as many leads as we can follow through on. We have been focusing on this organized retail theft because the dollar amount has been so high that is really jeopardizing businesses' viability in the area. If a store is losing $20,000 worth of merchandise every day that they open, it makes it difficult for them to stay open for other community members who want to legitimately shop there. And this is also something that has proven to be a group activity, an organized activity, not somebody who's stealing food because they're hungry or stealing a piece of clothing because the one they have on is ratty and not fitting them well. So we are trying to go after these organized efforts and these high dollar thefts as much as possible, because we feel that these are the things that are jeopardizing the viability of stores staying open for our community members. And we don't want to lose the stores that are available to our community right now, or potentially lose them all. But we do follow through on every crime that we have investigative leads on. So if we have video, we have photo, we follow up as far as we can on any crime that we have an investigative lead. We also highly suggest that if you talk to a neighbor, a friend, a family member, somebody else that you work with, and they have additional information on something that you know has already been reported, have them call. If the officer that took the initial report isn't here, another officer will gladly take that information and add it to the original report. And as long as the statute of limitations is still good on whatever crime has been committed, we would be happy to look into any additional information that comes up. So please feel free to reach out to us and share if you have additional information.
Thank you for that, Officer Chase. I'm going to bring it over to Officer Luna.
I was just going to add to that, you know, we live in a good county where our district attorney's office is still going to prosecute. So if we have a bad guy, you know, we're going to prosecute as much as we can, but we do need good witnesses out there. I've said it a number of times already. You know, the evidence that we get from cameras, from witnesses, you know, it matters. And so I'm just going to encourage, again, pay attention when you're out there, take down descriptions, use your camera if you need to, but avoid confrontation.
Thank you, Officer Luna.
I think Officer Chase and Officer Luna kind of covered a lot of it. I just speaking on behalf of what we see with the downtown unit, a lot of it is working with the merchants in the area. So like the DSMA, we have monthly meetings with our department as well, where we kind of talk about the issues going around downtown. So some of it is if there is retail thefts or things that are coming up, kind of letting your law enforcement agency know about it early. Sorry about that, a train just went by again. But letting them know about it early kind of helps deter the problem. A lot of times we can do high visibility by walking the area, addressing areas. We have parked patrol cars in front of businesses that are getting targeted before, and that kind of helps deter some of the crime in the area. And the other thing is just familiarity with the managers, with their beat officers, or whether it's loss prevention with their beat officers. I know our downtown area, some of the businesses like Walgreens reaches out to the downtown unit quite a bit to kind of talk about issues. And we're, with us being in the, with a lot of our chronic thieves or things like that. So sometimes we can identify people just based off of the videos and kind of address it, and then work towards success in prosecution, or at least getting the merchandise back based on what the retail wants.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Officer Chase and Officer Luna, for your responses. Thank you. That was a four-pronged question, and thank you for your complete responses. This next question is for our Chief of Police. Are criminals now sitting in jail with the same pre-pandemic time period, or is there a different protocol that we're following? Are we still doing quote unquote catch and release?
Good question. Interesting question. So I'll deal with the pandemic issue first. The pandemic protocols have pretty much concluded. And that's limited to theft. So for theft, somebody asked about a dollar amount earlier, and while Officer Chase is correct, we investigate all crimes regardless of the amount when it comes to theft. $950 is a magic number for us when we make decisions on what to do with folks that get arrested for theft. The law establishes $950 and over that type of theft to be a felony. Anything under that is what's considered a misdemeanor. We are required by law to instead of bringing those folks who've committed a misdemeanor to jail, to issue them a citation with a court date. It's technically an arrest, but they, instead of going to jail, they will be issued a court date. Now, there's some exceptions to that. If we can articulate that this is offense it's an offense that's likely to reoccur, or we can't properly identify the person, there's 7 or 8 exceptions to that kind of rule. However, we can't just get a sense or feel that it's likely to happen again, or we have to be able to articulate that and substantiate that. So I guess to answer your question, during COVID, we did make significant adjustments on who we booked into jail. Those were not the policy of our department, obviously. Those were the policy of the county jail, because they were trying to battle the spread of COVID within their facility. So they worked with the courts to establish some guidelines on who was to be booked and who wasn't. And I will tell you, that was a difficult time. Oftentimes our officers made trips to jail and were turned around because COVID was a difficult thing to navigate through. But I understand the premise of the question, and I will let you know that I think that every police officer on this call here can share the frustration that, you know, we do arrest folks that commit crimes that we see out fairly quickly, and that's a frustration that we've all experienced, and I can understand why that question is being asked. You know, I always sound like the old guy now. I never thought I'd sound like this, but it wasn't too long ago where $400 was the magic number when it came to whether or not the theft was determined to be a felony or misdemeanor, and that's obviously been raised to $950. I will tell you that once we book somebody into jail and drive away, we have absolutely no influence or input or any type of control on what happens past that point, whether they're cited out from the facility or they're released on their own recognizance, or that we have nothing to do with that process. So I hope that answers the question. We've kind of moved past the COVID. It was extraordinary during COVID. Some of the arrests we were making that were not getting booked into jail. I acknowledge that. It was a strange time for us all, and I never thought I would see anything like that. But that has those protocols have pretty much concluded. And what people get frustrated with, I think, is, you know, if somebody steals $600 or $700 from me, that's a pretty big deal in my life, in my world. And the fact that they're going to get a citation just doesn't resonate. And we end that frustration, but bound by what the law allows, where that individual is kind of getting at with
Thank you for that. Thank you, Chief Barberini. Thank you for that answer. Our last question that we're going to be able to take before we end up going to our panelists for some last minute remarks involves a question about newspapers and advertisements. The question asks, is there an ordinance that prohibits unsolicited newspapers, advertisements from being thrown onto a driveway? This is a great way to illuminate that someone's away on vacation when these pile up. Is there an ordinance, or if there is there any way to enforce it? I'm going to go ahead and answer this question so that we can move on to the end of this and do our little wrap up. Simply put, as odd as this sounds, this ends up being a First Amendment issue. It's been held in several courts across the United States that freedom of the press not only applies to actual words that go into documents, but the actual delivery of such. And that when these newspapers and unsolicited publications are in fact thrown onto driveways or in front of a home, it is still constitutionally protected in many ways. So what we always advise people to do in those situations is, once again, use that whole concept of asking your neighbors for guidance. Like, if you are going to go away, maybe that's when you clue in your neighbors and say, hey, I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks. Additionally, when it's other things other than the newspapers, you can go to the United States Postal Service and ask for a stop mail. So that way you're not getting those. And lastly, the one little kind of nuance here is that you can actually contact the newspapers and the unsolicited advertisements and ask them to exclude you from it. In other words, to opt out. And when you actually take that action, that is when you will stop getting it. They are allowed to kind of just throw them at residents and doorsteps and get away with it because of that constitutional protection in many ways. So that's what we would advise you to do in those situations. A little bit more complicated than we kind of intended to get into tonight. So we're just going to move on to our final closing remarks. And for those last minute remarks, we're going to start off with the gentleman who started our evening, and that's Mr. Robert Anderson.
Well, thank you for this informative. I even learned some things tonight. I thought I was pretty well up on things. So very informative. I probably imagine that most of the viewers here come to downtown San Mateo as customers. And I want to assure everyone that it is safe. I know we're talking about some pretty serious stuff here, but downtown San Mateo is safe. We have the police department has a downtown unit. When I was the downtown unit, it was pretty much myself most of the time. Now we have 4 officers assigned to it. So it is probably one of the safest downtowns on the peninsula. And as far as we talk a lot about car burglaries and break-ins, while it's very prevalent throughout the area, I can also tell you that it's the easiest crime to protect yourself from by not leaving anything inside the car. So feel free to park downtown, but just don't leave anything of value in plain sight. So aside from that, thank you, Allison. It was really a great program, and I appreciate you including me.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson, and thank you for joining us. Thank you for all of your insight tonight. Next up, we have Mr. Peter Lee.
Thank you, Allison. First of all, thank you for having me on the panel tonight. It's been very informative, and happy to participate in this panel discussion tonight. I just have probably my thought on a situation. At Hillsdale Mall, we try to keep the mall neat, clean. We have a bit of a challenge. And because we have a lot of our audience that live in San Mateo and from the community, we have a lot of instances where we have graffiti, people just break chairs, and that's a concern for us. So I'm asking those that are listening, if we can all as a community work together to make our surroundings beautiful. The mall has spent a lot of money on getting the mall beautified and sort of a pleasant place to come to relax, to shop, to enjoy the facilities. To give an example, a few weeks ago, probably a month or 2 ago, at 2:30 in the morning, our security officers encountered a group of young boys, probably 12, 13-year-old, with their bicycles riding on the north part of the mall. And as soon as they saw our security, they'll run away, but the damage was done. They actually graffitied the chairs out in that north block. And so my request would be, as a community, those that have children, if we do a lot of these awareness teaching at home, it'll help us all, whether it'll be the mall, whether it'll be downtown San Mateo. We all have a responsibility as good citizens of our town or our city to be able to help each other in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Next up, Officer Mike Wynn.
Thank you, Officer Gilmore. Just from my experience in the downtown, I think the community does show a lot of pride in San Mateo, especially in the downtown area. So I think a lot of it is the community support out there. We have quite a bit of folks downtown too, with different agencies. And I apologize again, a train is coming by. But basically, we have Public Works who is out there who helps us kind of support in being another eyes and ears in the community. We have the DSMA, the merchants and businesses themselves, but also just the community members reaching out to the police department when issues come up. I think that kind of joint work definitely helps keep the area a lot more safe and shows pride that we love San Mateo, and we hope for it to prosper. Little other things I know that in terms of community outreach that can help. A lot of times we have our explorers. If you have vacation time, especially during the holidays, you can always reach out to our Explorer program. They're more than happy to go out there and do vacation house checks to kind of help curb some of that appeal from having a house vacant over the holidays and being targeted. So they will go out and do vacation house checks to make sure that mail is not piling up or things aren't piling up in a visible area and making it more of a place to focus. The other things I think that can help to kind of curb kids out there from activities that might be graffiti or anything like that. We do have a very strong police activities league in San Mateo. So there's a lot of fun events, especially during the holiday seasons, that we can get kids participated in. And I think that kind of helps prosper, shows that community support that the PD's there more than just to do enforcement, but also to show support and resources for the community, especially during the fun times like the holidays.
Thanks, Officer Wynn. Appreciate it. Community Relations Officer Luna.
Kind of like to wrap up by hitting on a little bit of everything that was just said, because we do all have a responsibility to not be a victim. You know, we have control over certain things. We have control over what we leave in a car. We have control over what we advertise, what we get for Christmas. You know, we need to talk to our teenagers about getting on social media and talking about the PlayStation or the Xbox they just got to all of their friends. You know, when you get your 60-inch TV for Christmas, break down the box. Don't, when you put it out in the garbage. You got to remember that we're sharing so much of our lives these days, whether it's on social media or just by putting our garbage out. You know, that's that's advertising what we have. So we just need to be cognizant about that. Talk to your teenagers about it. I know it's really popular now on social media to be an influencer and talk about all the cool stuff you got, but that does create a situation where your house could be burglarized. You know, we've had that happen in the past. People's houses are broken down to Christmas Day, unfortunately. You know, we know that during the holidays, there's an influx of packages and gifts of all different value types. So that naturally just makes us all victims. So let's do our part to kind of cut down on the sharing of all of that, you know, to protect ourselves. And not only that, make sure if you have any and this doesn't just apply to Christmas, but anytime, if you have high dollar items, valuables, serialized numbers, make sure you're keeping descriptions, values, serial numbers jotted down, pictures of jewelry, things like that, because that's all very necessary. If unfortunately you become a victim of a crime, we're going to need that. And it's helpful for us to try and get your property back if we know what things look like, what the serial numbers are, because we enter those into systems. So that's very, very helpful. Speaking to what Peter said about the mall being kind of trashed, you know, in regards to neighborhood watch, blight matters. You know, if a neighborhood's run down, that's more likely going to be the area that's going to get, you know, the bad guys hanging out and doing crime. So when we do take care of our environments and when we act like we care about what's going on and we pay attention, you know, those are the neighborhoods that are less likely to be burglarized because they're living and thriving. It's the areas that show blight that aren't necessarily being cared for is where kind of that underground darkness kind of breeds itself. And then lastly, I'll just say, you know, as an agency from mine and Allison's office, you know, we talk about the 3 E's: engagement, education, and enforcement. We try and put examples of all of that out on our social media. So make sure you're following us on all our social media channels, all of our alert platforms, because we are constantly pushing safety tips, advice on how to protect yourselves, things to look out for and crime trends. And we try and do that two-way engagement with you guys so that we can build rapport and you guys can trust us with information and we can push information back out to you guys too. So make sure if you're not already following us that you do follow us, and you'll get a lot more information on how you can protect yourself this season.
Thanks, Janine. Officer Chase.
Thank you, everybody, for coming here and participating with this tonight. I just want to say San Mateo is a beautiful city, and we're blessed to have all sorts of businesses ranging from high-end single brand stores to family-owned businesses that have all sorts of creative products and foods. And I strongly encourage you guys to shop in San Mateo, shop at the mall, shop in downtown, just be cognizant of your surroundings. And we definitely want you to be a good witness and not a victim. So if you see something happening, call the police, contact security. Please, please, please don't become a victim, and just let us know what's happening so that we can intervene.
Thank you, Officer Chase. And lastly, our closer, Chief Barberini.
Thanks, Allison, and nice job tonight. I appreciate you putting this on. Yeah, I just want to close with echo a couple comments that have been made here. You know, we're talking about a lot of problems tonight, right? And you know, to echo what Officer Chai said, we're very lucky to live, work, and be able to exist in this city. It's a beautiful city. It's a great city. It's a safe city. And we're very lucky to work here. I interact with police chiefs, in the county and in the Bay Area all the time. And I count my blessings every time I walk away from those conversations, because we really do have a really nice community here. But the reason we do is because we have these conversations and we focus on what we focus on tonight. We don't want to rest on our laurels. We want to constantly get better. When you're a city of over 100,000 people, things are going to happen. And when you have nice places to come to and you're located in a easily accessible part of the Bay Area like we are, we're going to attract people to our city, and that's a good thing. But along with those folks who are coming for the right reasons, there will be people that are coming for the wrong reasons, and we continually need to be conscious of that and continue to have these conversations. So my final message tonight is just thank you for being here. Thank you for those who've tuned in or are watching at a later date. The fact that you're paying attention and staying engaged is part of that process of keeping us safe and keeping the city the nice place and beautiful place that it is. So well done. Thank you. I appreciate everyone's work tonight. And to Peter and Robert, thank you for without our community partners, we could not be successful. So I'm very, very grateful to all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. And thank you all for joining us for this episode of Real Talk San Mateo. This series will continue next year. We have some exciting and interesting topics planned. We hope our next gathering is in person. Be sure to follow us on our emergency platforms like Nixle and Nextdoor. Also, don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Lastly, please visit our website at sanmataopolice.org and scroll through our website. Pay special attention to our police accountability page to learn more about information and the many different ways SMPD works to make all of San Mateo safer. Good night. Stay safe, San Mateo.